So you may be asking yourself, what do I do if my life feels completely unorganized? This happens from time to time with just about everyone, so don't feel bad. However, if it is happening to you, I created something specifically for you. It's my CEO Reset Workbook. And inside this workbook, you're going to learn strategies and a mindset shift that will take you from feeling completely overwhelmed to completely in control of your life and your household. And it feels so good when you finally get there. My name is Cynthia, and I help high achievers create action plans so they can win in household management and feel less overwhelmed. So without further ado, let's get started in this video. In this video, I'm going to do a walkthrough of my CEO Reset Workbook for this specific client's case study so you can see exactly how it could work in your situation. We're going to go through a case study of a client of mine who is a mom with 3 kids under the age of 12. She recently got a job offer. She's going to be starting a new job soon. And she also has issues at home and with her car. So there's house issues that needs to be repaired and car issues that need to be repaired. So let's see how we can help her through this crazy life transition and all the different barriers that are getting in the way. Let's keep watching. So on the first page inside of their CEO Reset Workbook, we have section 1, which is the CEO Reset. CEO stands for calm, efficient, and organized. When you first open the workbook, you're going to see the CEO Reset for section 1. In the left quadrant, you're going to have a section that says, where am I right now? And in this section, you're just going to hash out in this small little paragraph what exactly you're feeling right now and where things are in your life very quickly. The second quadrant, you're going to write what feels heavy in your life right now. So the difference between this section of where you are right now and what feels heavy right now, where you're at might not necessarily feel all entirely heavy in every area of your life. But there are some areas that will feel heavy, just like our client, where her home, her childcare, and her finances were the heavy part. So that's what she would write in that section. You write what feels best for you. And then what feels stable. There's certain areas of your life that always do feel stable, despite the fact that some of them are a little chaotic. So you would write what feels stable, and then the last quadrant is what feels unclear. And you would write that right there. On our next page, we have what is actually draining me. And this is where you're going to list off all the things that are actually draining you. Some examples could be different things in your life in the categories of health and fitness, or finances, or your relationship, or spirituality, whatever is actually draining you. That's where the check boxes are here. So you could write down the areas that are really specifically draining you. And I call these life categories because there's about 8 different life categories that someone usually has in their life. We may or may not use all of them depending on how your morals and values are in your life. So now that we wrote down our life categories from section 1 on our checklist, the next thing that we're going to do is write down you're going to choose 3 of those life categories that you want to focus on for the next 12 weeks. And I choose 12 weeks because it's a shorter, measurable amount of time, and it's easier to focus on what the goal is that you actually want to accomplish within a shorter time instead of just a year. So you're going to choose 3 of those life categories, and you're going to write them down in the top section of those 3 checkbox, and you're going to write 1 to 2 goals for each one of those categories. Now take a second and write those in. So those are the 3 life categories that feel heavy for her right now. So those are the ones she's going to focus on for the next 12 weeks. Then there's a reality check that happens. I leave some white space for you to write, why does this matter right now? What is it about these 3 categories that are significant for you in your life for these next 12 weeks? Why does it matter? And what will you stop doing to support this? Sometimes when we're doing something, we can get in our own way so that we don't do the goals that we're trying to work on. And we don't see the progress we want because we're getting in our own way. So what will you stop doing that's considered a bad habit that you would not do so that you can support this goal? What will staying the same cost me? What is something that would not be good if you kept staying exactly the same and you didn't change anything? There's always something that would not be good if you didn't change anything. So think about what that could be. For our particular client, she had personal things she wrote down here, so I'm not going to say exactly what she was working on, but this is a really important section for each of you to focus on. The next part of section 2 is what season are you in right now? I know this is a different weird thing to think of, but when I mean season, I mean you could either be in a reset season, a survival season, or a building season, depending on the life area that you're focusing on. Some parts of our life area may be in a survival season, while other areas might be in a building season, and then some could be in a reset season. Sometimes when all of our life categories are not in the same exact season, some of them can feel more draining than others, and some can feel more supportive than others. And it depends on how you're going through your life seasons right now. So think about that. Think about, what does this season require more from me? And think, what does this season require less from me, depending on what you're trying to work on based on the 3 life categories you're working on for the next 12 weeks. The next part, you want to define exactly what the next 12 weeks looks like for success. What does success look like specifically for your particular situation? It is very different for each person. Success may come in a monetary form, while success for someone else may be that they feel more loved or supported by their family, or that they're spending more time with people that they cared about. So this is a really important section. I gave you an entire page to write out, what does success look like? What does it feel like? What does your ideal life seem to be like at the end of these 12 weeks? Section 3 is all about weekly CEO planning. So in this planning, you're going to write things that will move the needle forward in your life. Moving the needle forward basically is an expression that I came up with that is something where a small step that you do can make progress towards the direction of the goal that you want to achieve. For example, for our client, she might have something where she gets childcare, or she gets care.com, or she finds a daycare, or she has her mom babysit the kids. There's lots of different things that can move the needle forward, so she doesn't have to worry about how childcare is going to impact her having her new job. So that's one thing. Another thing could be getting a contractor hired for her housing issues and her car repairs, getting an appointment scheduled for the car. Small things like that could be moving the needle forward each week so that they could feel less stressful. Even though at the beginning it feels extremely stressful, it could feel way less stressful near the end. And then there's always some things that feel urgent, but they can wait a little bit. So there's room for those things on this list too. Those things vary from person to person, but they might still impact the categories, but they're not pertinent to this specific week. Maybe they can be a couple of weeks later down the line. Then we're going to work in some gentle time blocking. I know. Time blocking can be something that either you love it or you hate it, or you think, there's no way I could do this. But when I say gentle time blocking, I'm talking, the morning. What is, from the time you wake up until 11:59 a.m., what are the things that you need to get done in the morning? They could vary from task to task, right? And then you have your afternoon task and then your evening task. And you could just write down anywhere from 3 things to 5 things to 1 thing to 2 things to 10 things, whatever you realistically could achieve in that time frame. This is not about booking your calendar until it's entirely full. You want to make sure you're doing specific strategic tasks that will lead you to moving the needle forward in your life category so that you ultimately feel success at the end of your 12 weeks. We also have our weekly planning template. Inside of this week, it's mainly guiding you for how you want your week to feel. So you can print this page as many times as you want to. Inside of our guided thinking, we're going to think, how do you want this week to feel? And what mindset do I want to lead with? So I gave you some lines where you could write, what is the mindset I'm going to take over? Am I in a survival season for this reason? Am I in survival season for this? Am I in a reset season? What am I exactly feeling right now? And what am I going to take on from that feeling? Then you're going to write your top 3 priorities for this week. 3 priorities for the entire week. All the other things that are on the moving the needle forward list, those things you can still get done if you have extra time, but you need only top 3 priorities for the week. You don't want to overwhelm yourself, because then you're going to be like, you know what, this doesn't work. I don't like it. I knew Cynthia didn't know what she was talking about. That's not true. So please, just top 3 priorities for the entire week. Section 4 is your discipline with grace. So by this, disciplining yourself. When I fall behind, what happens? What can I do to get back up? Because there's going to be some times when you do fall behind just a little bit and you're like, I need to get back up again. What's going to keep you held accountable so you keep moving forward in your life? And what are some things that you can release? What are some tasks that you can delegate to someone else? Who else in your life can help you move along this path? If it's just you by yourself, then sometimes that happens. But sometimes we have friends or family that are willing to help us if only we ask them. So try to explore that too. And then think, what is the right next step for me? What is the very next thing that I need to do to move the needle along on my 2nd week or my 3rd, 4th, or 5th week, going forward until the end of 12 weeks? Then you're going to have a reset ritual. And this reset ritual, it's your time to actually pause, do some reflecting, and think, actually, how are you feeling about your progress so far? What are some things that are working, some things that aren't working? Do I need a reentry plan without any shame? Do I need to start all over again? And when you start all over again, it doesn't mean that nothing counted. It just means that you're going to try to implement it more strategically and more on time than you did before. I have a few different ways that you can learn how to reset yourself. So one of the first ways is the CEO pause. Inside of the CEO pause, that's when you take about 3 to 5 minutes, you sit quietly and you ask yourself, what really matters today? What are the things that matter today? You might have 10,000 things on your list and you're like, I need to focus on today. I need to time block my morning or my afternoon, and I need to focus on my 3 tasks, my 3 priorities, and then what tasks fall under those 3 priorities for that week, right? Then we have our calendar cleanup. And our calendar cleanup, this should probably take about 15 minutes. You're going to go through your calendar. You're going to move things around that don't need to be there, that are going to prevent you from doing your top 3 priorities for the week. We always end up with too many things sometimes in our calendar, too many things that could be rescheduled or canceled or pushed off or just be an email instead of an actual meeting. There's things like that. So look for your calendar for those things and move them along so that you can move the needle in your other areas of your life that actually matter to you. Then there's the midweek CEO reset. This is when you review your weekly goals and you're like, okay, I'm going to stay on task. I'm going to make sure I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to learn how to reset if I need to and do whatever is needed to keep my focus going and keep the needle moving forward. There's also the graceful replan. That's when you miss a week. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. It happens to me sometimes. I'll miss an entire week. And what I need to do is just to get back into the groove again. So I'll look at my calendar, I'll clean up things. This is like kind of like all 3 of those mixed into one for this 4th one. The graceful replan. Replanning your strategy for what needs to work, what didn't work, what was getting in the way, and figuring out a different way of attacking it. One of the most important parts of this entire thing is the reflection page. Inside of this reflection page, you want to write down what's working, what worked so far, what didn't work, why not, and what is something that you're proud of. Reflection is something that a lot of people forget to do. And it's significantly important when you are focusing on your goals and you're trying to make progress in your life. It's something that can make or break your entire focus of your journey. And I think that people need to do way more reflection than they actually do. If you can, reflect daily and reflect weekly. Do not wait until the end of the 12 weeks to do reflection, because you're going to forget a lot of things that you did along your journey that were actually helpful. And then some things that weren't that helpful that you don't want to repeat again. Do that reflection. In this workbook, you can get really honest about where you are right now. You could also get really clear on what your specific goals are that you want to accomplish and how you're going to get there. You also learned how to plan the weeks ahead of time so that you can get more things done than you normally would get done if you were just spiraling in chaos. And you practice discipline with grace instead of being so hard on yourself. That, my friends, is hard work. That is a lot of hard work, and that is leadership. That will lead you and your family to where you want to be. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and download my workbook. You can print it as many times as you need to, and I will see you guys in the next video.